what a miserable and very confusing season, eh? Let's not forget that at one point we were in the midst of our best unbeaten home run since 1979 and our worst start since 1919. Counting cups, we lost by 2 goals or more on 16 occasions. We had 4 managers of very varying quality. We didn't beat a single team in the top 7. We were bottom for more than any other team in the division. And we're the first founder member of the Premier League to hit the 4th tier. And so on. But to be honest, I felt just as bad at the end of last season, because it felt more of a novelty to be on the verge of actually winning something and then throwing it away. That hangover hung over the club, if you will, and we made a start befitting of a demoralised club, albeit one with a bizarre bunch of nomads who were either older, younger or crapper than the season before. And we paid the price. I've never seen fans so distraught and angry at so many games. Twitter at 5 PM on a Saturday was about as pleasant as contracting a venereal disease. And the problem was a lot of our fans couldn't get rid of the itch and kept coming back every week. One other thing. In August, someone from the Coventry Telegraph was looking for supporters to write pieces and ask for submissions. So I sent this. Pretty much nailed one part, but definitely not the other. No one player was consistently good over an entire season, or actually even half of the season. In fact, only 7 of them made more than 20 starts this season, which is appalling. The most consistent player was Lee Burge, maybe. Most talented, Ben Stevenson. Best player at the end of the season was arguably Jordan Turnbull, but the most improved was George Thomas. And bear in mind that he didn't score in the league until February the 18th, and only 1 goal full stop before Christmas. He's done remarkably well. Always had a great attitude, and now is reaping the rewards. Our blonde bombshell is the closest to the award, and probably after Wembley, our hearts as well. Lewis Page, maybe? Kevin Foley? Many more contenders, but as someone who was in the crowd at the Manor Ground and saw that total shambles of a performance, being told to be quiet by a player who displayed not an ounce of pride in his performance therefore made me give this coveted award to someone who's been called the new Chucker Akpom. Andre Wright. Never forget who pays your wages, Mr. Wright, and if they're any more than £10 a week, I feel shortchanged. First one was on July the 23rd last year when we sold Romain Vancelot for an undisclosed fee. I was having a lovely family meal that Saturday and I nearly choked on my onion rings. So that was Vancelot, O'Brien and Fleck, that great midfield from last season, all gone. And think of the games this season where we lost by 1 goal or where we just needed an old hand to grab hold of a game and shove it up the backside of the other team. And that is where we missed those 3. Number 2 is employing Russell Slade. He also wins Quote of the Year for this little speech when he took over Grimsby. I probably didn't do my homework before taking the Coventry job. As someone who turned the Valley pitch into a giant hog barbecue with all the trimmings, I'm left wondering what homework he actually needed to do. And the thing is, he didn't do any homework when he was with us. Like, for instance, don't play with 6 defenders. Don't get Yakubu with less mobility than a Soviet tank. And don't do this. The third mistake, incredibly, is getting rid of Marvin Sordell. New Year's Day, I saw that he'd gone and I thought, we've got some beasts lined up. That's a statement of intent. And the intent was relegation. I bloody hate Slade at Christmas, and now I had a reason to hate it in the new year as well. No one was saying that Marvellous Marvin was the new Drogba, but he was at least a physical presence that might just have made a difference here and there. It might not have done. Well, at least wait until we've got a replacement to get rid of him. For occasion and importance, George Thomas at Wembley, obviously. For surprise, and most likely to make you say, why the chuffing hell didn't he do that more often this season? KL Reid against Port Vale. 3 other forgotten ones. Marvin Sordell against Millwall. Kwame Thomas's back heel against Port Vale. And Dan Agyei against Northampton in the Checkatrade Trophy. However, my choice, because it looks so bloody perfect, is Ben Stevenson against MK Dons. That reverse postage stamp thing of beauty, delicately, lazily gliding into the top corner despite the goalie trying his best to get across. and it was celebrated in grand style in front of a completely empty stand. Christ, take your pick. There are so many, but forced to choose, I go for the Red Sea opening, butterleg defending, take your pick of either side horror of our third goal conceded against Oldham, where we invited Ryan McLaughlin to run from about 50 yards and to score half of his league goals this season. Good finish, poisonous defending. Difficult in a season where we only won 9 league games and barely any against teams in the top half. I have to say my performance of the season was the second half against Wycombe. Absolute backs to the wall for 30 minutes, and of course it meant that we got to Wembley.
Finally getting to Wembley, eh? For you, Dad. For all the other Coventry fans who haven't lived to see it.
There's no need to treat people like that. It's lovely.
Special mention also to the Swansea game. We did 2 very un-Coventry things in that quarter-final. Of course, we let in a late goal, but then we equalised. And also we won on penalties against their 38-year-old, under 23-year-old goalkeeper, Gerhard Tremmel. Sounds better when you say it like that. Because I didn't go to all these games, I'm basing this somewhat on Twitter reports and post-game analysis. Some of the contenders are Fleetwood away, Oxford away, Bristol Rovers away, Swindon at home, Southend at home, and Northampton away. For me though, Cambridge in the FA Cup takes the award. To get 50% possession and still lose 4-0 to a lower league team shows just how wasteful we were in that game. Barely a shot on target, one bloke getting all 4 goals, and I nearly fell down a grate on the way out of the ground. Bloody awful. Yeah, quick shout out to some of these guys. At least they make supporting Coventry bearable. There's plenty more, I'm sure, but you lot are some of the ones I spoke to or listened to. Thank you all. Our fans are obviously the best in the league. I know a lot of supporters say this, but not many have been through what we go through and still have that sort of gallows humour and still go along to all the games. I'm sure many of you have read this book by Steve Phelps, excellent, about the FA Cup run in 1987. If you haven't, go and order it and go and read it. There's a lot of fans in here who claim to have gone to all 7 games along that cup run. No reason to doubt them at all. What I'm interested in is, this season, did anyone go to all 8 Checker Trade Trophy games? Be amazed if they did, and credit to them if they did. Also, one other thing, what were the odds of us winning that before it started? I haven't seen anything quoted. Could have made a nice little packet if we had done. When are we going to stop conceding late goals? And when are we going to start breaking some of these runs, like not winning at Swindon since 1843 or something? Number 3, did the protests work? And what's more, did they disrupt our flow at crucial times of games? Sheffield United and Bolton, for example, potentially cost us points. That could have kept us up. We'll never know. I certainly wouldn't blame anyone for doing it, but we'll never know what the effects were. Rather than loan players who were awful, why didn't we start looking at the lower leagues? Looking at hungry players, looking for their first chance or their last chance, instead of just another chance. I want to know what Russell Slade says in interviews, because he is phenomenal. 4 jobs in the last 12 months or so. You know, sometimes you see those pieces about interviews with Google or Apple and some of the interview questions that you get, these horrendous questions that are really taxing. I'm going to drag Russell Slade in. If I ever get one of those interviews, I'm going to drag him in there. He'll no doubt say the right thing, and then I'll get my plum job. The guy's a miracle worker until he actually takes over a club. Number 1 is Mark Robins. We've never started a season with him, never seen what he can do when he's got a summer to think about things. I mean, sometimes that isn't good, as Huddersfield will tell you, but he can make differences. So, we want another Musa, we want another Carl Baker, a Leon Clark. Maybe he can do it, maybe he can get players like these. Maybe he can just put a team together. The second thing to look forward to next season is our young players, again. Jack Finch, Callum Maycock, Kean Harris, Jordan Shipley, Chris Camwell, maybe Jordan Ponticelli as well, to add to all the ones that we've already got, like Big E and George. Surely some of them have got to be A, decent, and B, staying. So let's say that all of the new players are good, and they all want to play for us, and then we throw in a few lower league players, and then a few veterans as well. Maybe we can put a decent team together. Number 3 is new grounds. We've never played league games at Barnet, Wickham and Cheltenham before, or Forest Green for that matter. Seriously, the only way to survive next season as a fan is to reprogram and enjoy these games. You have to try and savour a weekend in Exeter or Grimsby. I'm off to Lincoln and Mansfield, probably Cambridge and Wickham as well. It's hardly a Cooney cruise, but you've got to try and treat them as a weekend out. Just try and like them. They're not very nice, no. They're horrible. Try. The first is that obviously we'll be a big scalp. With Plymouth, Portsmouth and Doncaster going, we're by far and away the name in the division, and I would suggest that ours is the biggest ground that's ever been in the 4th tier of football. The next biggest is Port Vale with 19,000, and even the other bigger grounds like Gresty Road and the Western Community Stadium hold only about 10,000 fans. We're now other teams' Wembley, and we all know now how that feels. Number 2 is a poor start. Without knowing who we're playing, we can't predict how difficult our start could be, but if we're mid-table in September, we're in trouble, because we don't do the second halves of seasons. We do march onwards, but nothing else, and my fear is that with a depleted team, we won't ever adjust or even compete until it's too late. And that concern ties in with my third fear of the season, and that's just oblivion. The worst case is that attendance is dropped to 1,000 or so. Our best players have gone or they go. We're 16th by Christmas. We don't know where we're going to be playing in the season after that, or even almost why we're playing. The team is a shadow of its former self by the time we get to the new year. More go, and before we know it, we're in a surprising relegation fight, which we never managed to get out of. Non-league. My prediction is 10th. We'll probably start okay and then we'll just lose to teams that we should beat. That is normally what we do in the season after relegations. We flatter to deceive and we end up in mid-table. So that's what I'll go for. I'll do a proper preview later in the summer of next season. But until then, you can subscribe to Football Rants by pressing the button down below, or you can follow Football Rants on Twitter and Facebook. Enjoy the summer, Cov fans, or try to, and I'll see you in August.